Nobody is going to finish the year with an ERA under 1. We're not looking at Bob Gibson here. Even Jacob deGrom didn't put up these type of numbers. So I think that's the problem. I'm just waiting for a bad start from Shota. I don't know if that's necessarily fair to say, but it just feels like when you're on a hot streak, you're kind of waiting for the other shoe to fall. So would you bet on the Cubs here, or do you think eventually, things kind of cool off?
Hey, Shota me the money, okay? Because look, maybe about every 10 to 15 years comes this guy that just lights out, comes from out of nowhere, and it takes longer for people to catch on to him. So yeah, there's not going to be, no one's going to have a sub 1 ERA. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I would put my birthrights and my kids' birthrights on that. But I could see Shota with an ERA under 2 by the end of the season, just because this guy's dealing, and he's a veteran, quote, rookie, right? And so when you have that ability to know how to navigate through games, usually with rookies, they get figured out halfway into the season. Their stuff is like, okay, yeah, throw your fastball. We're all looking for it. We know where you want to place it. I mean, come on. Shota's got a book before he even takes a mound. He's got a book on pitching, the art of pitch. Like, what rookie has a book that's called the art? It pretty much has an art of pitching. So Shota I'm riding him. I'm really riding him, and especially in an NL Central where, look, the Cardinals aren't really there. They're on a little bit of stride now after sweeping Baltimore, but they haven't really been there. The Cubs are the story. Milwaukee's kind of hanging around. So these are most of the people that you're seeing. I feel real confident that this guy's he's gonna ride this into September. It's gonna be Shota mania in Chicago, the way it was Fernando mania when I was a kid in LA.
I mean, it's hard not to like the guy. He's an absolute electric factory. And you're right, he came from Japan. So it's not like he is some 22-year-old that does not know the art of pitching. He pitched in the gold medal game for Japan, in which he shut down the American bats. And I know this is not built into the numbers and the matchups here, and I'm trying to kind of find it. But I know he did pitch against several players on the Cardinals when he pitched for Team Japan. I think it was Paul Goldschmidt. I think it was, let's see who else. Maybe Nolan Arenado. I'm trying to remember what they did, because both of those guys were on Team USA. So they have seen his pitching before, but although it is a very limited sample size, because it would have been one game. But still hard to go against Shota here, especially facing Miles Mikolas, who has kind of struggled this season. Just 3-5, like I said, an ERA approaching 6. So maybe you look at the Cubs here. I still think it's a pretty generous price at -140 if you want to ride it out with the bullpens, or if you want to pay a little extra 5, you can take the Cubs -155 on the money line. I did look at Shota's props. Earned runs are kind of at a tough spot. Under 2.5 is -175. If you think that he's somebody who is limiting base runners and not a lot of hits, maybe there's a market here. Under 5.5 hits allowed is -145. That's the only palatable juice that I can find. But still, I am expecting a good one for him. So I'll just take the Cubs on the money line. Okay, maybe this is the year where the Astros finally don't go to the ALCS. Because what have they been for 8 straight years or something like that?
Yeah.
So maybe now is the time to pounce for other teams in the American League. If you're looking at run differential, which if you're looking for a tangible statistic to maybe predict some success, and maybe the teams that have been overperforming and underperforming, Yankees have the second best run differential in all of baseball. The Phillies are your top team in all of the major leagues with a 93 run differential. Pretty damn good for the hottest team in all of baseball. And I think that's why you're seeing the odds shorten. The Phillies sitting at 37-14 overall. They are 9-1 in their last 10 games. They've got a great rotation that's been there, done that before. Because that's also something that I'm looking for in a team that I want to win the World Series. The difference between being good in the regular season and being good in the postseason is you have to have the shutdown arms in your rotation. You have to have 3 aces on your staff that can take you deep through the postseason. So you look at the Phillies, Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez has some of the best numbers in all of baseball right now, and he's not even their number 1. So I think that line movement is warranted. But again, it's May 24th. So KJ, should there be any concerns for the Phillies possibly peaking too early?
See, that's the crazy thing, right? If you think of these Philly success stories over the last couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
this is the time it's supposed to be a disaster. Is the manager going? Why isn't the superstar performing? Take out billboards, still let them know we love them. So this is one of those other things because here's the one thing we know about Major League Baseball. You're going to have a hot streak, you're going to have a cold streak. The difference is when does it show up? So I'm going to fade the Phillies still for a little bit because I want to when does their cold streak hit and how do they respond? If this is a team that has a cold streak towards the final stretch of the season, man, what we're talking about today on May 24th isn't going to matter,
Mm-hmm.
right? But in the previous seasons, hey, what we were discussing about the Phillies are a mess and this, that, and the third, and they're not doing all that, it didn't matter because when they got to the postseason is when they were making their runs. So I'm not going to jump on the Phillies just yet. I know it's a sexy bet because they're doing well now. But what does their disaster look like? Because when things get disastrous in Philly, damn, it's entertaining. So wait to see what happens. When does it happen? If it happens, say in July, and then they rebound, then I'd say that's when I would probably pick them up again because it's already happened. But if it starts happening end of August, early September, where they still get into the playoffs, but they're not playing good baseball or arms are worn, I would really be concerned at that point.
I'm taking the Arizona Diamondbacks in the first 5 innings -0.5. That is the first 5 run line. It is -140. There is a huge mismatch today between the Marlins and the Diamondbacks. First of all, you look at the starting pitcher. Zach Gallen is the ace of this staff. He also was drafted by the Marlins, so maybe a little revenge brewing. Maybe not so much, but still, you look at the teams that these guys are on. It's Braxton Garrett that's throwing for the Marlins. Should mention that. So far this season, he is 0-0 with a 10.24 ERA. So a far cry from the numbers that Zach Gallen is putting up. Also, you look at these offenses, especially in the first 5. Arizona, one of the best offenses in the first 5 innings of play, averaging over 3 runs per game. And you look at the Marlins, they're bottom 10 in most statistical category, including runs per game in the first 5 innings of work. Plus, Zach Gallen has been fantastic at home this season. His ERA sitting under 2 when he's playing in Arizona. So I like that one quite a bit. We will be taking the Diamondbacks in the first 5 on the run line for -140. Well, on paper, the T-Wolves are the much better team. Like,
Oh yeah.
they're an extremely talented and deep team, led, of course, by Anthony Edwards, who's been a little quiet the past couple of games. If he did that and he was Jason Tatum, people would be all over his tail. I can't say
Yeah.
the other word that I want to say, but you get what I'm saying. But if you look at the Timberwolves, he doesn't need to go off every single night because they have such a deep roster. You looked at Game 7 between the Nuggets and the Timberwolves. It was Naz Reid, the NBA's Sixth Man of the Year, who closed out the game for him. But you can't bet on potential, especially for a team that's favored. You can bet on potential for a team that's an underdog, but if you're talking about 5.5 points, you need to be pretty sure about a team not only winning, but covering a spread and winning a game pretty comfortably. And that's where I think I feel uncomfortable with this Timberwolves team and cementing a lead. I do think we see a better effort in this game, but also there's some ways that the Mavericks could get better. I think they only made 6 3-pointers in game 1, 6 of like 25 or something terrible. I think they shot
Yeah.
like 27% from the
Like
3-point
6 to
line.
28, something like that. Yeah.
They can get better.
Yeah.
And so I think that there is ways that you could say, okay, the T was probably going to bounce back. It's a home game here, but they've actually been better on the road in the postseason. So 5.5 seems like too many points to me. I think my gut says take the Mavericks, but of
Mhm.
course, there's always the potential for the T Wolves to run up the score here.